It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Dutch. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague who thinks it's sexy to eat a full triangular Toblerone in one go. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
I'm going again.
He's just ate it in front of me. One of the most disgusting things I've seen in a long, long time. But there we go. It's probably because I haven't seen him face to face in a long, long time. We have seen video, obviously, but usually behaves himself. Like on Saturday when we were involved in a Dynasty Zoom call with a lot of gentlemen from the Midlands and in the southeast. I thought we equipped ourselves well and came first and second in the quiz by Mr. James Dixon as well.
Indeed, that was the pleasant surprise. In fact, well, the pleasant surprise was that I managed to keep my voice down and not wake the kids up at that time of night. Well,
You did well. You did well. Bravo, bravo. Yeah, good news all round. Neil, this week. And we've got a couple of classic wheel worlds. The animal revolution is upon us for one, and we're also going to talk about something that we've all wanted to do and someone did and got away with. We're then going to talk briefly, well, not that briefly, but talk about the life and times of Mr. Don Shula.
So good who said it 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. And then we are going to discuss fifth year options and what they mean. But before we do that, Neil, let's quickly get on with Weird World. We've all wanted to do it, Neil, and this man did it. Cops shouldn't have pulled over driver for flipping middle finger, decides court. A state trooper's decision to stop a driver who flashed an obscene hand gesture wasn't justified, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled Friday. A state trooper's decision to stop a driver who flashed the obscene hand gesture. The justices ruled unanimously that the evidence showed Trooper Paul Stevens lacked reasonable suspicion to pull over Sean Ellis for disorderly conduct in January 2017. Stevens and the local police officer had stopped to help a stranded motorist out of gas a few days after a snowstorm when Stephen noticed what turned out to be Ellis in another vehicle. Ellis's back and forth waving motion with his hand outside the window turned into a pumping up and down motion with his middle finger. Stevens pursued Ellis's SUV and his cruiser, with blue lights still flashing, for half a mile before Ellis stopped. Ellis initially refused to identify himself, and Stevens ultimately cited him with resisting and delaying or obstructing an officer. The trial judge refused to suppress Stevens' testimony in the case. Ellis pleaded guilty to the court, but said he had planned to appeal. A divided panel of Court of Appeals upheld the judge's denial to leave out the trooper's statement, saying there was reasonable suspicion to stop. Have you ever thought about giving a finger to a policeman, Neil?
No, but in Greece I was hit in the back by a Greek policeman. Yeah, those truncheons are heavy.
I have given a finger to a policeman because we know our friend Dave and he's a policeman. So we've given him the finger on many times. There is actually a great criminal podcast about a guy who constantly does it because it's not against the law. Absolutely brilliant.
That's a great show.
I've listened to it. I have kind of done it myself a few times when no one's looking because that's how I roll.
I'm Phoebe Judge. This is criminal.
Let's move on, Neil. To the animal revolution or not. I'm going to read the story as it's portrayed on the HuffPost, and then I'm going to discuss how I believe this is complete falsehood. Hero cat alerts sleeping family to burning slow cooker. Think cats are just selfish creatures who only want to eat, sleep and clean themselves? Yes, I do. Well, that's a crock, according to a Canadian man who said his cat woke him up to let him know a slow cooker was on fire. Scott White, in the province of Newfoundland, said he went to sleep Sunday morning around midnight after setting some onions in his slow cooker to make jam. Okay. A few hours later, around 4:30, White said his cat Joey did something strange. Usually Joey doesn't bother us when we sleep, but I could sense him pacing around the bed and I woke up with a paw on my face. Sensing something was wrong, White got up and saw the kitchen filling up with smoke from the slow cooker. There was a lot of haze in the kitchen, but not enough to alert the fire alarm about 20 feet away. In the aftermath of Joey's alertness, White and his fiancée had been giving Joey extra attention and treats from a hero basket donated them as word of the cat spread around town.
Right, so let's start with the headline that starts with Hero Cat. That was clearly written by an editor who is a cat.
Let's be honest, I've got a cat, right? And
Bastard cat, I believe it's been called in the past.
Cat, it's been known in the past, not by me, by my wife. And what I will state, I'm knowing of cats, not just Pauline, our cat. Great human name given to him by Alfie when he was a kid. Or a younger kid, he's 12 now, he's not 74. There is effing no way this cat woke them up to be a hero. Firstly, this cat set that fire. Then it woke him up to say, you hadn't done what I had asked, and therefore I've set fire to things. Be better, and then I won't set fire to things. Now he's getting hero baskets, therefore the victor. As always, cats are, as they are, the smartest of all the animal creatures.
Absolutely. I mean, I for one welcome our new feline overlords. But, as you say, he or she, I forget which one it is, has waited for this weird Canadian fella to stop his midnight jam preparation. He's waited till he's gone to bed, and then he started a fire. And then, he's couldn't contain himself with how excited he was about the plan. He started marching up and down the fella's bedroom, and then eventually thought, well, surely the smoke alarm should go off for now. He has slapped him repeatedly in the face. He has not woken up with a paw in his face. This cat has been slapping him, and as you say, he's woken up, and then has got him by the scruff of the neck, and said, look, the house is burning down, come on.
And I caused it, because you gave me Felix for the third day on the run, and as we all know, I only eat Felix 2 days out of 7, so therefore, where's my Sheba? Also, he didn't gently paw him in the face. He was holding a knife in one hand and was trying to get it move his chin slightly up so he could slit his wrist. No one would have known his neck was slit because the house would have burnt down. However, his plan was thwarted this time. This is Pinky in the Brain-esque. Don't think that this isn't.
Yeah.
Cats are smarter than you. Get over it.
Yeah. I say the title of the Netflix show is a warning for all of us. We don't even have to watch the show. Just heed the advice of the title.
Don't F with cats on the internet. Neil, there are 2 classic weird worlds. A feline overlord and a middle finger to an officer. Can't argue with that. If you've got some other weird worlds that you'd like me and Neil to discuss, please contact us at waxing_lyrical on Twitter, or individually, I'm at Mandy7 and Neil is at ndutton13. Neil, let's move on with the show and dive into some NFL chat. Major news this week in terms of the NFL, unfortunately, is the sad passing of Don Shula, who died earlier this week. Me and Neil wanted to talk about him because, I think it's fair to say a lot of people who listen to our show or watch the NFL now, especially in the UK, I've probably been watching it since about 2000, early 2000 later. So I may not be aware of Don Shula and his history and position in the NFL. Just basically given the fact that you may not have studied the history, you may have seen a football life or what have you and seen him mentioned. I think he's got his own one, so you may have seen that, but apart from that, you wouldn't have seen him. So me and Neil thought it'd be only right and proper to discuss him and give you some facts and figures. So I'm going to give a few, and then I'm going to get Neil to talk about them. This information comes from the Elias Sports Bureau, which is a great resource for history buffs. Don Shula head coached against a man who was an NFL coach in 1920, the league's first season, and also against someone who is still an NFL coach today. He was 5-4 head-to-head against George Halas and 2-0 against Bill Belichick. He coached 2 teams, the Baltimore Colts. Yes, that's right. The Colts of Baltimore. He had a winning percentage of 755 there. He was 71, 23 and 4. 4 ties. It's a lot, but anyway. He won the NFL championship in 1968. However, that season lost Super Bowl III to the Jets and Joe Namath. What I always find most staggering about that is Super Bowl V, when Shula was now no longer in charge, the Colts won the Super Bowl, and they did a America's game, as they do for all Super Bowl victories, and it was one of the most somber events of all time, as everybody in that video talked about how embarrassed they were for losing Super Bowl III, not how happy they were to win Super Bowl V. Crazy. He then moved to Miami, as you do, in 1970. His record in Miami was a winning percentage of 66%. He was 257, 133 and 2. He won Super Bowl 7 and 8, and Super Bowl 7 included an undefeated season. As you see every year, people get wheeled out, and they literally do get wheeled out now, to drink champagne as the last unbeaten team is defeated. As I said, he joined Miami in 1970 and had 25 years as a head coach, and had a winning record in every season apart from these ones. 1976 he was 6 and 8. 1980 he was 8 and 8. 1986 he was 8 and 8. 1988 he was 6 and 10. 1989 he was 8 and 8. And 1991 he was 8 and 8. Yes, you haven't heard me wrong. In 25 years as the Miami Dolphins head coach, Don Shula had a losing record twice. So we all laugh at the Dolphins because it's fun. And they've been a moribund joke of a franchise for a very long time now. When I started watching the NFL, the Miami Dolphins were the model franchise in the AFC, and the reason for that was Don Shula. Neil, your thoughts?
Well, trying to put it into some context, it's like saying someone, I don't know, for example, may have been has coached against Jurgen Klopp and has coached against Bill Shankly or Herbert, or going further back, Herbert Chapman.
Herbert Chapman's a good one, yeah.
There's no modern context we can put that in. It's other sport. It's like someone who has battered with Sachin Tendulkar and Don Bradman. It's that time frame is absolutely frightening. Obviously, I should say, ridiculously long run with the Miami Dolphins, and of course, we do have to point out here that the two of the longest running serving head coaches in NFL history were both replaced by Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, weirdly.
But yeah, as I say, he went to. They appeared in 3 consecutive Super Bowls. They lost the first one, then they had the unbeaten season, and then the season after that they went 12-2, I believe. And the 12-2 team was actually better than the undefeated team. Statistically speaking, in every category they were a better team. And it's notable for the fact that, obviously it's very, very different game now. Their quarterback, Bob Greasy, attempted 7 passes in their second Super Bowl. That's not in the first quarter, not the first half. He attempted 7 passes. The impressive thing about that is that they were still a force in the NFL for the majority of the 70s, despite the fact that after that second Super Bowl, they lost half the team to a rival league. Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, Mercury Morris, who Don Shula once said one of the greatest insults I've ever heard, was it, Merc, you must be a twin because no one person could be that stupid. It's one of the greatest things I've ever heard in my life. Then, obviously, so it was the quintessential ground and pound, play good defense, the classic no-name defense. That was actually one of the best units in NFL history. Then they transitioned into more of a passing attack once they drafted Dan Marino. And yeah, he could change, he could adapt, and he probably went on a little bit too long. But what do you think? What have the Dolphins done in the 25 years since Don Shula? 25 years. What have they done since? A fat load of nothing. And, it's just incredible to have that type of success. Obviously, a big criticism of him after his time with the Colts was that he couldn't win the big one. Because, as you say, that loss to the Jets was a major black eye for the NFL.
Yeah.
The established NFL teams, obviously, the merger came with the AFL and it became the NFC and the AFC. But that was... it was one of the biggest upsets in sports history, and it was a black eye against Shula because when the expansion Miami Dolphins wanted their head coach, they wanted Shula to come in, and I don't think, obviously, on reflection, the Colts didn't do an awful lot, after he left, but it wasn't a huge, oh my God, we've lost Shula, because it was he doesn't win the big games, and then obviously he goes on to win many, many big games. And as I say, I don't think, was it 347 total wins is a phenomenal achievement, and there is a chance that if he coaches another 5 years, Bill Belichick could overtake it, especially with a 17-game season. But the thing that should also be pointed out is that as much as Shula was a big fan of Steve Belichick, because obviously, like Baltimore, it was a local area. Towards the end of his days, I don't think Shula was quite as warm towards Bill. And I think it was probably, if we had to pick one symbol on a laptop keyboard, it would probably be an asterisk. In the sense that I just suspect that maybe Don Shula felt that certain things the Patriots had done had clouded their achievements, whereas Shula always prided himself on having done it by the book.
I think as well. I think nowadays there's a lot of, I guess, Green Bay Packers fans, New England Patriots fans. That kind of spiel. You get that glory hunter concept, which I don't think is fair. You just pick a team, and may not be a fair sport at the time. And you'll might want to pick a successful one because your other club sports aren't. Like I started watching in the early 90s, very early 90s, late 80s, Channel 4 stuff, right, with my dad. Dad supported Miami. I supported Washington. There's a load of people who support San Francisco. There's a reason for that, right? Loads of people supported Green Bay and still do now because those teams are successful, right? So there's a lot of older Miami fans, shall we say. And the reason for that is because they were tremendously successful. They had Dan Marino and they had Don Shula. And, it's fair.
We spoke to something, Nat Combs, Handsome Hank.
Yeah.
These are, it was Miami were good. They were on the telly a lot, so they got more supporters. As I say, bless you, if you were supporting the Yucks or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Saints at that time, then you must have had a special reason for doing so. Obviously, Fred Dagnall went to Tampa Bay, saw the stadium, and that was it for him. But I doubt the Buccaneers were on telly very much when he was of an age.
No, and I think it's the same kind of concept, right? They were an East Coast team, so if Channel 4 was showing two games, they were going to show the main CBS game, and it wasn't even Fox then. I think it might have been ABC at that time. So they're going to want to those main games, the nationally broadcast games in the early window, quote unquote, are going to be, NFC or AFC matchups, or teams who are playing Miami. You know what I mean? Like, okay, they're not. Back in those days, believe you me, they weren't showing Pats Jets much. No. Do you know what I mean? Bills Dolphins, on the other hand, was absolutely signature viewing. And there you go. So Don Shula lived to a ripe old age. We hope he rests well, and he is a Hall of Famer, and rightfully so.
Lombardi and that team in the sky's got a hell of an assistant now.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Let's move on, Neil. We wanted to talk fifth-year option, or you did. I'm going to briefly tell people what it is, and then we can get a discussion about it. So this began after the 2017 CBA, and every
2011 CBA.
11, sorry. But was it grandfathered back that year or something?
No.
It's
been exercised for the players taken in the first round of the 2017 NFL draft.
Yeah. Every player selected in the first round of the NFL draft would automatically have a fifth-year option added to his contract. The option cannot be separately attached to a player contract. It allows them, basically, standard rookie contract is 4 years, but the CBA allowed them to retain the right of first-round draft picks for an additional year. But he must inform the player between the last regular season game and May the 3rd.
Yeah, the start of the prior
start
to the beginning of his fourth season.
Yeah. So fifth year option is non-negotiable and non-compensation terms for players on rookie contracts. It'll just be transferred over in the standard figures for that. So this year's one has been done, basically. I got some facts and figures, and then we can discuss on. So it wasn't a good start. Okay, so Myles Garrett, his was exercised. Mitchell Trubisky, nope. Solomon Thomas, no. Leonard Fournette, no. Corey Davis, no. Jamal Adams, sorry, yes. So let's get that right. That's the top 6. Yeah. Two of them were 4 declines, 2 exercised. 1 heard something he shouldn't have heard and tried to murder someone with a helmet last year. And Jamal Adams may as well have said, I love Jerry Jones, please trade for me for the past 6 months. We also had in that draft Mike Williams. His has been exercised. I wouldn't say he'd been a ringing success, but there you go. Christian McCaffrey, he actually hasn't been exercised because he's been extended. John Ross declined, shockingly enough. Just running fast in a straight line doesn't make you a wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes, you'll be stunned to hear, is exercised. So was Marshawn Lattimore, and so was Deshaun Watson. Neil, have you got any stats, facts, figures about this fifth year option and how it's entailed and gone through?
Well, the big difference is the fifth year option, basically it's guaranteed for injury only. So what that means is if you exercise a fifth year option and the player then suffers an injury in their 4th year that causes them to miss their entire 5th season, you pay them everything. Now, this has changed in the new CBA, in the sense that it's the same time, you've still got the same time frame to exercise it. You must exercise it between the end of their 3rd and the beginning of their 4th. But what it is now is it is a fully guaranteed option. So that means if you are going to pick up an option on this player, you are committing to paying them in that 5th year. So it's not going to be a case of like this. I mean, an example was RG3 had his 5th year option exercised, but he was released at the end of his 4th year, because it's injury only. So, but that will change with this CBA. So these current picks, the ones in 2020, in 3 years, if their options are picked up, they'll be fully locked in. I mean, just because you decline the contract doesn't mean you can't re-sign this player. It just basically says to them, yeah, you'll play out this year and then you're hitting the free market. You're basically allowing the player to bet on themselves. It started to say in 2011. Now, in 2011, 21 of 32 first-round picks had their option picked up. In 2012, that number fell to 20, but Whitney Merciless was signed to an extension after the Texans declined his option. In 2013, it fell to 17, but Lane Johnson was signed to an extension prior to his option. This is the one I like. This is the most players who were signed to their option. In 2014, 23 of 32 options were picked up. So that's players who were drafted in the first round in 2014. 15 of those 23 are no longer on their original team, as we stand now. 2015, it was 20, and then in the last 2 years, it's been 17 apiece. Well, obviously, as you say, this year, Christian McCaffrey didn't get to the exercise, and he'd already been extended. I mean, as you say, 17 players. There's a couple of players who've been declined that are a little bit surprising. Malik Hooker for the Colts, when he's been healthy, has been very good. But, he does struggle. But basically, they're saying to him, stay healthy, and, we'll have to pay you. So it's encouraging the players to bet on themselves. But that top 5, after Myles Garrett is, well, you can look at all of them, and there are cautionary tales. You don't draft quarterbacks who've started 1 year in college Solomon Thomas was is he a defensive end? Is he a defensive tackle? Where do we do him? You don't draft running backs to the 4th overall pick, especially when they're not special talents. And Corey Davis, they drafted a wide receiver 2 and expected him to be a wide receiver 1.
We can all laugh at that, but let's look at the year before, right? So the year before, I have Jameis Winston, exercised, cut. Marcus Mariota, exercised, no longer with the Titans. Dante Fowler, declined, now on the Rams.
Falcons,
sorry, moved, sorry, was wrong. Amari Cooper, exercised, no longer there. Brandon Scherf, exercised, still there. Leonard Williams, exercised on the Jets. Kevin White, don't even think he ever played football, declined. Vic Beasley, exercised. Eric Flowers, declined. Todd Gurley, exercised, now no longer on the team. Trey Waynes, exercised. Danny Shelton, declined. I think what the 5th year option always shows me, it's like, dear NFL team who drafted really early 4 years ago, we would like to double down on laughing at you for that draft pick by making you highlight the fact that you picked a terrible pick by having to publicly announce that you're not going to give him the full length of the contract he has deserved. It's one of those things where not only are we going to slap you for the pick, not only are we going to laugh at you for the next probably couple of years around the player, we're then also going to give you one final ignominious moment to say, this dude sucks and I'm not giving him his 5th year.
The difference, I was saying, with the change now that it will become fully guaranteed, an awful lot has changed since the CBA. Is you've seen teams trade back in to the first round, usually to take a quarterback. Mm-hmm. So notable examples are Teddy Bridgewater, Lamar Jackson, because the idea being that you want those first 3 years to see what you've got, and then you can exercise, your option. Say we've got an extra year there to work out a long-term deal. Now, since the advent of the 5th year option, the only 2 quarterbacks who have played out a 5th year option and not been extended by the original team were Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. The difference being now, as I say, is we have a team like the Packers who've traded up for a quarterback. But, the message out of that is still, oh no, this is Aaron Rodgers' team. And you look at the contract, and yeah, it probably is. Well, what that means is you're going to have no time at all to assess whether Jordan Love is worthy of a fully guaranteed 5th year. And that's a gamble. But, it'd be a gamble normally when the salary cap goes up $10 million a year. The rumours I have seen on Twitter from the various people who are clued in, there is no guarantee that the salary cap will go up again next year, and in fact, some people are expecting it to drop, but anywhere from $30 to $80 million.
Well, it's based on overarching profits and revenue, right? And if there's no fans in the stands for a majority of the season, then there will be less revenue, and if there is less revenue, the salary cap goes down.
But it's going to get to a situation.
Is Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott's not going to play for the Cowboys then.
Yeah, you get to a situation where some teams who've been, kicking the can down the road salary cap wise, banking on it always going up, are going to get a very, very large bill. And basically, if we're looking for a parallel, it's Leeds United banking on getting into the Champions League every year, and then the one year they don't, they're screwed.
Is that really the reason, or is it because they paid Seth Johnson $50,000 a year when he was going in asking for 25?
Or if they got to the Champions League, they could have covered it.
Yeah, true.
It was the fact that they didn't get in the Champions League, and then it's like, so all these players you've bought. It's the Simpsons episode, when they find oil. Who shot Mr. Burns? What about all the expensive stuff we asked for? Can we still have it? No. And then groundskeeper Willie just rips his shirt off and starts shouting things like that. It's like, we've bought these players for next year's Champions League. Yeah, you can't afford them. Oh.
This actually happened in the NBA when they had a new salary cap, and the way they did it, I don't really know how it worked, but it got bumped up like 30 million, and so every team was flush with cash, and they all spent it in the next season. They just expected it to go up every year. And the next season it went down, and there was loads of teams who were screwed because they got bad players. You can't get rid of them. You look at, I guess, kicking a can down the road type of situation. New Orleans have always done that. You wonder what that means for Breeze. Maybe Jameis Winston will be starting next year. We laugh because it's Dallas, but in a real situation, what are they going to do with Dak if they can't afford to pay him? And not because they can't afford to pay him because they can't afford it, but in salary cap world, they won't be able to do so because they've already paid loads of money for Zeke Elliott and Amari Cooper. So
and an off-the-ball linebacker.
Yeah, so good work.
In the year of our Lord 2020.
It's good work if you can get it, I guess. Caution retailer 5th-year option. I'm sure everybody who's picked their players, Chase Young, Rager for yourselves, will hope that you get to exercise that 5th-year option, because that means you got a good player. If you don't exercise that 5th-year option, it's just another year where you're on the side of I suck at drafting, like most teams do.
I mean, obviously, if someone has been injured, it's has missed notable time. I'm thinking of someone like John Ross. It is an advantage to say to them, look, you've got a season to prove yourself, and then you'll become a free agent. But obviously, the downside of that is if he's missed loads of time because he's injured, he's probably not going to be high up on the depth chart now, and also there's a fairly good chance he's going to get injured again. But if it's a case of it wasn't Washington's problem, they didn't draft Reuben Foster.
Yeah.
But because they traded for him. Was it trade or was he cut and picked up? I'm not sure. I thought he was cut. He was cut.
He was cut and picked up, but he was still winning his rookie contract because he was picked up like that.
Because he was picked up on waivers, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't Washington's problem, but since he's been there, he's not been fully healthy. He's not been completely productive. So it's still a case of Washington are still in, you still need to show us something mode. But if he's a talented player and if it all comes together for him, then Washington will pay him. That's what they do. But it's as you say, there are a lot of players here who the first round is and the drafting in full generally can be seen as something as a crapshoot. I believe someone has said it before. And it's a question of some of these players are being, exposed. And as you say, it's not just a case of we drafted him, but let's never mention it again. It's when you say 3 years later, they come knocking and say, by the way, this fella, this bum that you drafted, what do you want to do now? Oh, can we not just... No, you need to announce it to the league. What are you going to do now?
Please announce it to the world. Well, that's it on 5th-year options, and that's it for the show. But Neil, before we go, is there anywhere where people can catch you this week?
Not really this week. I've not had much published. I have been working on my blurbs and videos for the Roto Underworld World Famous Draft Kit. If you go to Roto Underworld, you'll be able to see, so playerprofile.com, you'll be able to see details of how to subscribe to that, assuming there is a season, of course. That's been fun. It's always nice to see my mug looking back at me as I record them on the webcam. Hopefully next week I'll start doing a bit more work on like dynasty things for RotoViz and all the other assorted guff. But follow me on Twitter at Endutton13. I would just like to say quickly that I'm very, very sorry to hear that in a local radio station from where I live, Radio City Talk, is being discontinued, which is very, very sad. I have had the pleasure of appearing on that station a few times, usually around the Super Bowl, speaking to the likes of Dave Downey, Steve Hothersall. So that's very, very sad. But as someone pointed out to me today, I suspect we're going to lose a lot of things we don't want to over the next few weeks.
Unfortunately, that was me, and I hate being right. Well, I don't hate being right, but I'm right on that one, and I don't like it. I am at Mindy7. Nothing coming up. Ready yourselves, people, for the schedule. People will go crazy about it, but don't forget, we've known who your teams are going to play, home and away, since the end of last season. All we're doing is defining the order.
Yeah, I didn't give a toss then. It's pretty hard for me to get excited now.
I'm sure we will care when we do the previews for the season in August. Until such time, I'm probably going to give it a miss. But there we go. And on that note, these top guys are out.